Okay, welcome to another stream of Lyrebird Edits. Sorry for starting a little bit later tonight. I wanted to try and set up a transparent notification so that when people follow, it flashes up on the screen without taking up like a huge white section here or somewhere down here. But I couldn't get it working, and then I ran out of time. So, in fact, what I'll probably do is just change the dimensions of the desktop thing that I have currently. So just zero from the bottom. Actually, it looks kind of nicer without it, doesn't it? Yeah, it's clean. Yeah, I'll keep it. Anyway, I was thinking of just... Yeah, I'll keep it up there for now. One day I'll have the luxury of having a transparent alert box thing pop up. I don't know, like it shouldn't be that difficult. I just can't get it functioning. Lots of tutorials, of course, but I don't know, OBS changes and people have made tutorials a couple of years ago and it's all out of date. So, oh well, there are worse things that can happen, right? Worse things that can happen. And besides, like I actually have the alert box over on the other side of my screen here. So if someone does end up following me, I'll quickly drag it out and be like, oh look, here it is. Just sort of drag it out like that. At the very least, I'll be able to hear when someone follows me, and I guess that's the most important thing, so I can say thank you. Anyway, enough about that. Don't think anything else is new. But we are getting towards the end of Nick of Night's story about... Sorry, my mind's all over the place right now. Let's see. We've been going through Nick of Night's sci-fi futuristic noir story for the last couple of streams now. We're up to part 6 tonight, actually. This is based off a writing prompt. I think you can just see it, but if the resolution's not all that good, then it's everyone is immortal in the distant future, and to keep life interesting, most people reset their memories every few centuries so they can experience life anew. And this is part 6 of that story. So the story so far has followed a detective called David, who's investigating the murder of one of the I suppose clients or research test subjects who undergoes this process of skimming, where which is Mr. Nick's version of the reset. They have their memories skimmed away, and this test subject, after having one of their skims, went crazy and murdered one of the research facility directors or psychologists, I suppose. Sprinkle on a bit of intrigue. And the head of this facility isn't particularly forthcoming with any information, so she's Juliet. David and Juliet are now on more or less a search for the truth about what this crazy patient may have been saying and what made him go and kill the doctor who was taking care of him. And then, of course, in part 3 and 4, that's kind of turned on its head when it's revealed that Juliet, the director, actually was the one who killed the doctor and not the crazy guy. Interesting. So, up to part 6 now. We're actually at the bottom of New York in an underwater dome, and David and Juliet, David the detective, Juliet the research head, the head of the company that performs the skims, they're investigating one of the madman's claims about humanity just being wholesale replaced by clones. And this facility at the bottom of the ocean apparently have some answers. So they're heading down there. Alrighty. So if you want to watch, probably easiest to people who haven't seen this story before is to actually go and read it. So if you go into... I'll take you guys back to part 1, actually. Here is part 1, and you can follow the links once you're there and read from part 1 onwards. So there's the Twitch, and hopefully I'm streaming through YouTube as well at the same time. So YouTube people, hello, there you go. That is a link for you. Should come up in a couple of seconds. There we go, good. So yes, read through from part 1. And I've also got my streams up on my Twitch channel, and I think even on my YouTube channel as well. It saves them. So, good. I'll copy part 6 into a Google Docs. Just to re-emphasize, I do have Nick's permission to edit. It's not like I just go around plucking up people's stories and being like, oh, I'll edit this. This will be fine. No, I actually ask people if it's okay for me to do it. Good. I'll make it not fit so much. There we go. It's a bit more comfortable to read, I think. So this is welcome to part 6. Welcome to Magnolia is kind of the working title that I've given this story. I don't think Nick's actually chosen a title for this one. I'll have to just ask him again. 1, 2, stream quality is good. Yep, my face is there. Chat box, yep, everything's looking good. Part 6, so we'll probably get through 6 and 7 tonight. This doesn't look all that long. Yeah, 832 words for 6, so we'll do 6, 7, and maybe even we'll fit in the epilogue. Now, before I start tonight, I will also say that this Sunday I won't be streaming. I'm planning to go out Saturday night, so I want to keep Sunday morning clear. I've got an exam on Monday, actually, that I should study for. It's a Japanese exam. So I'll be busy memorizing kanji for that one. This is the correct facial expression you have to pull when you tell people you memorize kanji, because that's just horrible. God, I hate it. Anyway, it's like if you're gonna start from scratch and write and construct a writing system, like a character represents a symbol thing. Yeah, kanjis and the Chinese characters just no, don't. Not even once. Like if. Yeah, I'm not gonna get on a rant about it, but I've got like a wall right now full of post-it notes. Hang on, I'll pull one down. This one here is price. It's nedan, or chi, you know, because it's not the same when you stick it with other kanji. So, for instance, if it's Oh, really weird. Anyway, so this sort of looks. This one here looks like fix. I've only got my finger over. This one here looks like clothes. So when you fix clothes, that's a price, nedan. But when you have the same character after another one, I don't think I know. It's kachi. So like you have the same character. This one here, this big guy here, and it's pronounced differently depending on what it's next to. It's like having A next to, well, we do that too to a certain extent. Like we have phonetics associated with our vowels and our consonants. So like if you have O-U-G-H, you can pronounce it 6 different ways or something, like O-U, Uff, Off, or Ow. But I don't know, phonetics kind of makes a bit more sense than this like pure system of messy stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna put this back on the wall. And as much as I'm complaining about learning kanji characters, it's a lot of fun, and after a while you get used to it, and it's not all bad news. I just wanted to rant about having to memorize 132 of them, in addition to the 132 from last semester. It's not that bad. It's just I want to vent. I want to make it seem like it's not as good as it is. But yeah. Anyway, why don't we start? We'll dive right in just after I check something. I think I saw TTLACC in the viewer list. Very good. Hello, TTLACC. Good to see you again. Why don't we start? Good. So this is... How did part 5 end? Hello? Hello? How you going? Hope you're doing well. This fine Wednesday day. You know what? I've actually forgotten how part 5 ends. Let's go back and have a gander. Have a squiz. Have a peep. Have a look. So part 5 ended. Ah, that's right. They David and Juliet were in front of like a holographic map, and David realized that the coordinates for the section that they're supposed to go to, or what the madman Eisenstadt, what he was saying out loud, was actually like a sort of subsection of this underwater city that they found themselves in. So again, that should also be Oh, that's right, yeah, I said to get rid of a dialogue here and not make them dialogue. Good. I was wondering why they were still there. Good. So they're going towards this sort of subsection in the facility to try and figure out, are they clones? Are they not clones? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. We'll find out tonight, actually. We'll probably finish up the story. Good. Eden Research Facility, June 2087. A reluctant dollop of green sludge was slithering down a metal spoon towards Stuart Campbell's mouth when the shrill sound of a buzzer rang out around his quarters. Enter Sir Campbell, dropping the spoon back into the bowl below. The door slid open, and Professor Hassan Owens entered. "Sir," he said, giving a curt nod to Eden's commander-in-chief. Campbell ran a hand through his grey beard as he studied the professor's face. Pale and drawn, with bags the size of wheels around his eyes. "Give me some good news, Sir Campbell. God knows I need it." Owens let out a long, nervous breath. "Well, we did as you asked. We tried her on the Winograd schema and..." Owens hesitated. "Same as the Turing." "God damn it," said Campbell, bringing his fist down hard on the table in front of him. The spoon rattled around the bowl as it tried to escape. "That's it then, we're screwed. We're stuck down here with a computer we can't risk turning off. Who could just decide to kill humanity in their cryosleep if she ever has a mood swing. That's just fucking wonderful. I don't see why she'd choose to do that, sir. You obviously don't know women." Ho ho. Owens opened his mouth to object, but thought better of it. 2087, sorry. Yep. I'll allow this. Look, it's basically a noir story. You can't have a bit of noir without some casual sexism thrown in. Owens opened his mouth to object, but thought better of it. Do we know how it happened yet? How she went from supercomputer to AI? His nose crinkled up as he said the two letters he so despised. Owens shrugged. She was always an AI. She had to be able to think for herself if Elixir was going to work. We needed Eve to be able to problem solve. I thought we learned our lessons from... Campbell glanced up at the ceiling. "We did, sir. Well, at least we thought we did. Eve was hardly the most sophisticated AI ever produced, and besides that, she had very strict, defined limits." Campbell put his face in his hands and groaned. "So what happened? She became sentient, able to think outside of the box, outside of her programming. Jesus Christ, that's what I'm asking. How did Eve become sentient?" "Oh..." Owens fidgeted with his tie. "Well, the most plausible theory we have right now is that it's a result of Elixir. Which is... You have to be consistent with that. Elixir, YR. Turn on suggestions mode. I'm going to read through all of this, by the way. I'm not going to stop until and do sections. I want to do it in one shot. Specifically of Eve downloading copies of us into her system, analysing them when looking for anomalies. We let her study us in order to fix us. She learned what we are and how we work." Campbell let out a single staccato sigh. Oh, laugh. Huh. "Now she knows. Tell me, Professor, are we even insects to her? In terms of intelligence, no, but we are her creators, and that might mean something." Campbell picked up his spoon again, holding it above the bowl, and watching the green gloop slide off it. Only it didn't slide off. It clung onto the spoon for dear life. Hmm. Why would that mean anything to her? Well, she's part human in a way, to have become sentient off our brain patterns and structures, off our memories, loves, fears, and just get on with it, Campbell interjected. I think she's sentimental towards us, to her creators. Like, like we are, like we are towards animals, especially those we evolved from. Campbell laughed again. Oh, sure, we've always been real good to animals. That's why there are so many of them left. So she's engaged us in conversation. She's been willing to take our tests. That shows she's interested in us, at the very least. Oh, I know she's been communicating. I lost a good man for her to be able to talk to us. What do they call the process again? Oh yeah, a write over. Stevens' mind's gone just so she got a body to use. Eve said she'll put him back once she's done. No, it won't be him. He's gone. Oh, hello. There's a follower. Hang on. Let's see if I can get there in time. Yes, yes, yes. My fantastic alert box. There we go. Oh, look at that. Thank you so much for the follow, Pandas from Mars. That's a great username, by the way. Yes. I got there just in time too, with my very high-tech transparency, fully integrated alert box. Yeah, thank you for the follow. Welcome to tonight's stream. Not sure how long you've been here for, but we're looking at user Nick of Night's story tonight. Nick of Night has his own subreddit. This is him. And this is like a multi-part story that he wrote off a writing prompt about where everyone is immortal in the distant future. To keep life interesting, most people reset their memories every few centuries so that they can experience life anew. And Nick's chosen to take that in a bit of a noir crime direction, culminating to what we're looking at now, which is I suppose like a society at the bottom of the ocean that may or may not have replaced humanity with clones wholesale. We're not sure yet. Alrighty. So, hello, welcome. Feel free to say hi or whatever you like. Where are we? Where are we? No, it won't be him. He's gone. It'll just be a copy of him, an imitation. Owens knew he was too tired for a rational argument, but couldn't stop himself from trying, so it'll be him again, essentially. Any rewrite restores exactly the same mind as before, just occasionally with difficulties found smoothed over. That's the whole point of Elixir, which again should be ELIXYR. To keep it consistent with what we've got before, so I'll just put that back in there. So those difficulties go some way to making us who we are. He ran a hand through his beard again. Owen sighed. I meant diseases, sir, as you know. Campbell huffed. Well, I still think it's a positive sign she's willing to talk to us, Owens attempted. She's just sizing us up is all. We still have other options. We can turn her off, for example. Campbell snorted. With her gone, we flush humanity down the drain. Owens paused for a moment, considering how to break the next bit of news. Sir, he said eventually, I didn't come here just to tell you about the results of the Winograd schema. Oh? Eve, wants to talk to you. She asked for you by name. Campbell chewed on his lip as he considered. So that's part 6 tonight that we'll be dealing with. Now, this is quite a departure from... It's quite a departure from parts 1 to 5. This is the first part in the story where we've got a direct flashback. Now, I suppose in terms of the kind of the writing style, the back and forth, it's quite a stripped back dialogue pairing. The jump between going from two protagonists and their focalized points into this structure here, which is it's got a lucid narrative focalization. So that's my very wanky way of saying that it starts off being focused through one character, which is Campbell, and then the focalization will then plop over here into Stevens, I think his name is? Owens, sorry. We've got Owens and Campbell. Campbell being the, I suppose, head of the facility, Owens being the researcher who comes in to break the news to him. So the focalization doesn't anchor completely through Campbell. We get a dip into Owens's mind as well, specifically here. Owens knew he was too tired for a rational argument. We haven't done this before in the story, to my memory, because we've just had a story that's been focused through David, the detective. We haven't had a lapse into someone else's, or a sidestep into somebody else's way of thinking about this story. The only exception to that, of course, is through the logs between Eisenstadt, who was the original victim, the murder victim that David was called in to investigate the case of. Eisenstadt and the doctor, whose name was... I'm gonna go back and check. It was Eisenstadt and one other. Welcome to Magnolia. Omen, that's right. So Eisenstadt and Dr. Omen. So we've had these sections before in the past that have been the narrative style changed in addition to the focalization, because it was understood that this was a dossier that David was reading. So if you exclude these sort of dossiers, the Bioshock equivalent is looking at those, like the recordings where you pick one up and you listen to them. That's exactly like this. So aside from that, though, we've just had a story that's been focused through David, and all of a sudden, without a sense of how we're getting there, the narrative element is just like, whoop, boo, and then we're over that way now, over there. So it can be quite jarring, and I think that's the first thing that I want to talk about, is that 6 parts into a story, throwing in this kind of curveball can work. But what do we get from this that we couldn't have otherwise have learned through David and Juliet interacting with their environment? I don't know why we need to know about Campbell and Owen. I don't know if they're going to be important later. I sort of want to read forward a bit, and that way we'll know. Because I don't want to do the line edits here and then say, like, oh yeah, make this better, you know, fix that up, tighten this up, this word choice isn't the strongest it could be. I don't want to do that and then get to the end of it and just be like, okay, by the way, I want you to write it differently. I'd rather do the structural stuff first in this case and get that tight before we then go and look at the word choices. So, what did we learn here from this section? We learned that there's actually an AI in control of Eden. It attained some sort of sentience, and I don't know whether it was directly or indirectly. It has some sort of... Oh, excuse me. Post-it notes. It doesn't have post-it notes. I have post-it notes. This AI has control over the digitized versions of humanity, which is, I suppose, are sort of brain scans. Now, yeah, what year was it in David's perspective? That's a really good question, TTLACC. Wait a second. Is it in the writing prompt? Is it in part 1? Let me go back to part 1. You know, I have a vague memory of the year being mentioned once. I don't remember where. You don't happen to recall TTLACC, do you? Yeah, so that also raises the other question of just how long ago was this? I've got a feeling this takes place in the 2200s. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to do right now. I'll search for 22. You do 21. But yeah, if you could, that'd be fantastic. A good help, because that would also be really useful in figuring out um, how long has taken place. Hang on a second. Do we have 22? 22 users. Oh, that's annoying. 22 users are here in the story right now. I mean, that's great for Nick. He's got a good following. It just makes it harder to figure out where the 22s are in the story. Um, mm. Nick's previous story, The Well of Souls. Oh, I'm intrigued. I didn't see that one. Um, so do you like do you prefer that story to the one that we're reading tonight? Hmm. Oh, and I think I just heard another follower. Let me see if I can drag it over just in time. Wait. Yes, there we go. All right, got it. Whoa, too big. There we go. Yes. Thank you, Alexander Abraxas. Alexander Abraxas. Thank you for the follow. I'm sorry I have to torture you with that horrible oh dear. Where did my story go? Nope. There we go. And by my story I mean Nick's story. I meant the panel. Oh goodness me. I'm all over the place, aren't I? um yeah, I couldn't get the transparency alert box thing to work. But so I said to myself tonight, no one new will follow surely, but I'll just drag it over whenever I have to. So, hey, dragged it over. Thank you for the follow. And welcome to Lyrebird Edits. I'm usually not that disorganized. I swear it. I'm a very professional streamer. Anyway, so Lyrebird Edits, what are we doing? We take people's stories from... I usually just ask people on Reddit. I say, hey, you got a cool story? Would you like me to edit it? They say yes. And I edit it live over Twitch. So we're looking at Nick's story tonight. Nick of Night, this handsome gent here. And this is actually part 6 of his noir story, where everyone's immortal in the distant future. To keep life interesting, most people reset their memories every few centuries so they can experience life anew. And you can read it for yourself. I'll paste a link to part 1. So yeah, go check it out. Give Nick some love. Yeah, it's been a really cool story so far. I really enjoy going through different parts and working on this one. Yeah, so Pandas from Mars, I'll have to check out the other story too, the Well of Souls one. Alright. There we go. Welcome to Magnolia. So tonight's edit's a bit unusual because, I mean, I've read through part 6 tonight. The difference between parts 1 to 5 and part 6 is really stark. You know, I'm gonna go into part 7 immediately and treat it all as one big stream, I suppose. I'll mix up 6 and 7. So part 7 immediately gets us back into... Part 7 gets us back into the perspective of David and Juliet. Yes, TTLC. If you figure out when this story is set, then please tell me, because I would like to know. My impression was that it was in the 2200s, but I can't find anything to back that up. Doesn't say. Ah, rats. Oh well, thank you for looking. So part 5 was in... Sorry, part 6 was in 2087. So let's assume 100 years has passed. That sort of sounds right. Now... part 7, we're up to... Great. Yeah, I do. Pandas from Mars. I do write. I try and write very regularly. Um, um, once a day if I can, or once every 2 days. And I'm sort of trying to get myself into that rhythm, especially now that I've got a good idea for a story in my head. And if yes, where can I read them? I actually have no place online where my stories are. Um, I think it's mainly because I write longer works. I don't write so many short stories. So in terms of novels, I've written a few, but I've never put them up online. So I'm sorry to disappoint. But yeah, I can't point you anywhere useful and be like, oh, here's my wonderful portfolio where you can look through stuff. Um, hmm. It's a funny thing having an online presence for stories. Exactly, yeah, actually, yeah, thank you for mentioning that TTLACC. I suppose that's the only time I've ever, in my Lyrebird edits capacity, shown people my own writing. That was from a story I'd written 2 years ago. I had just lying around on my hard drive, so I thought, oh, I might as well pop that up and show that for editing. But for novels, it's difficult because if you want them to be considered for publication, you can't really show them in an online setting. If you self-publish them, that's a different story. I mean, you have to go down a different route. But um, I suppose what I really should be doing if I was being smart about it was that I would write short stories and build up a portfolio like that, and then be active on Twitter and use that as a base. And then when I pitch my novels to a publisher or agent, I can show them that I have some sort of following or backing. But I feel as though that's a lot of effort to justify something that I don't know if it will even pay off in the end. Like I'd rather spend that energy writing stories than I would building up a framework in which I can justify writing stories, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry, that's just me sort of rambling and justifying why I don't have anything to show you, so I'm very sorry. Um, what I have done on the stream in the past, though, is uh, I've also just done one paragraph examples of how to like one night I was talking about metaphors, and I gave an example of how a metaphor can work in context to double up its meaning and double up its emotional weight. Um, on that note, actually, if you guys would like me to provide like a small mini tutorial about something that you are having questions about in writing, um, let me know in the chat box, and I'll just do like an impromptu lesson towards the end of the stream, and that way I can show you my writing too. Just type off the top of my head. Okay, so let's go back into part 7, and then I think I'll have a better grasp of how the story will fit together and what to do about part 6 before we get back into 6 and 7. Alrighty. Yeah, let me know, Pandas from Mars. If there's anything that you'd like me to demonstrate, I suppose. Alright, so part 7. So we're back with Juliet and David. What the hell are those things? Juliet asks, stopping dead on the path. I follow her gaze, but don't notice them to start with. All I see is the cream-coloured neoplastic of the huge warehouse on our left. Then, one of the creature's long, metallic bodies catches the red light of the evening sun. It's like a silver serpent, and I watch. It slithers and coils over the neoplastic surface. It dives into the plastic, its body twisting and spinning, and for a moment it's lost to me. There are more of them. I begin to see dozens of these half-silver, half-red creatures roaming the building's surface. I'm going to read for a bit and come back up and do some edits here. Some kind of maintenance robot, I say, fairly certain, fixing, maintaining structural integrity. Juliet laughs and taps my forehead. I didn't know there was such a prodigious brain in there. As we walk, the sun fades from sangaree red to a pale eggshell white. I Feel a drop of something cold splash onto my cheek. Julia brings a finger to her lips. Rain, she says gleefully. Not like Magnolia's, this is pure. The rain's cold and tastes better than any of the crap I've ever gotten out of my apartment's hose. But even that's not enough to make me want to stay in this place for any longer, or for longer than I have to. In the pale moonlight, the structures around us have become huge, haunted spectres watching over us. Remnants of something once full of life, but now completely silent. We walk another 20 minutes or so without saying a word. Then I catch Julia glancing at me. Her lips are inside her mouth, as if she's trying to stop herself from talking. What is it? I ask impatiently. It's an odd image. What is it? I ask impatiently. Who was she? I found she? Or he or it? Whatever, she says, raising her arms innocently. I don't know. Your Ouroboros. I instinctively glance at my left index finger and see the faded remnants of the ancient tattoo of a snake eating its tail. I grunt. Does it matter? No, I suppose not. I'm only curious. You know, very few have the marking. I mean, they'd be willing to give themselves to just one person. Lifetime with a single person is unimaginable. I take a deep breath. Maybe you just lack the imagination. Is that why you won't step back? Skimming the memories away. Is that why you won't step back? You don't want to lose her? I bite my tongue. I feel my heart ramming against my chest. My cheeks are warm and must be flesh red. Something like that, I managed to mutter. Did she step back? Did she forget about you? It's okay, you know, everyone gets bored eventually. It's nothing to be ashamed about. I turn and grab Julia by the shoulders, pivoting her towards me. Listen, sweetheart, you don't have any goddamned idea what you're talking about. So maybe just an idea, you stop talking about it. I let her go. She takes a step back from me. The blood strained from her face. I'm sorry, she says. I only meant that I understand. But she doesn't. She doesn't have a tattoo. She doesn't, and she sure as hell hasn't lived the life I have. All the same, I feel a pang of guilt make its way up my throat. Okay, I say, it's just the rain stopped, and for the first time, I notice the black sky above us, how it's punctuated every few steps by tiny, shimmering crystals, as if God had tipped a bowl of sugar over the top of a dome. That's nice. Stars, says Juliet simply. Yeah, my voice is a little more than a whisper. Guess you don't see them often. Probably not much of a view below the fog. No, not much of one. It's been a long time since I saw them. You forgot how pretty they are after a while. I mean, I know these aren't the real ones, but all the same. They're in a dome in the bottom of the sea. Juliet smiles and watches me as I watch the stars. I force myself out of my reverie. Come on, let's get this over with. Let's stop there and we'll work through this again. Right now, I'm thinking part 6 can be chopped, which is pretty drastic. I don't feel as though I can think of a reason why the information in it can't be incorporated into part 7. But I'll hold my final judgment of that until we get to the very end of the story. Part 6 and its break in narrative structure might make more sense once we keep watching. Keep reading. You guys are watching. I'm the one who's reading. What the hell are those things? Juliet asks, stopping dead on the path. I'm gonna put an idiom here. On the path, in her tracks. In her tracks just sounds more fluid. I follow her gaze, but don't notice them to start with. All I can see is the cream-coloured neoplastic of the huge warehouse on our left. Then, one of the creature's long, metallic bodies catches the red light of the evening sun. Okay. This kind of sentence only works if we know that there's a creature there in the previous sentence. So, this information here comes out of us. Oh, it comes out of nowhere, and it's like blur, surprise. You have to then reconstruct that information into the image. So, then one of the creatures, but we're not sure which creature. Oh, where did that come from? Spooky. I posted that like 40 minutes ago, and it's just coming up now. It's yes indeed, TTLACC. I agree 100%. The, the sheer what? Robot voice. Anyway, sorry. I'm sorry if I seem a bit out of it too. I've been in front of my computer for a long time today, doing remote work, uni, and writing, and now I'm here, which is great. It's always good to be back. But my brain feels like a fried egg on the pavement. Well, isn't that a lovely image? And I said it so eloquently too. My goodness. Let's see. So if you can put up with my scatterbrained nature tonight, then continue to have fun. But yeah, no, so YouTube's working fine. Not sure what was going on there. So this thing here, so let's try and rephrase it. So all I can see is the cream-colored neoplastic of the huge warehouse to our left. We wait. And then I see it. Subtle change in the texture of the walls. Some spectral, suddenly where the light plays tricks in the colour. And not a moment later do I see the creature. Slivering serpent, all silver and red coils, bleed from the plastic sheen. Okay, and if I spell stuff right, serpent, there we go. There's an example of my writing, with 100% complete spelling too. It's frying since I was common in Australia. I think it used to be from my parents' generation. Strictly speaking, we call it pavements. Sidewalks is an Americanism. But yeah, they used to do it. And I think I did it once when I was a kid, just to see it. Because my mum used to use the expression, oh, you know, it's hot enough outside to fry an egg. I sort of said to her, what do you mean? Everything fries on the sidewalks, yes. Oh. It's the worst in summer when you're barefoot and you're trying to get between two places and just the sheer heat that gets trapped in everything. Sidewalk, stone, pavers, wood, it's just, But I love summer. I do. Just don't like getting my feet burned. So, okay. I waffled on an awful lot there, didn't I? But I feel like I needed to, for a couple of reasons. I needed to establish that, when I first read this paragraph, I got a really surreal sense that it wasn't really happening. It was like a digital distortion or a mental trick. So I kind of want to play with that a bit and make David a bit unsure about... Oh, I've used "and" twice, can't do that. But I wanted him to just sort of watch it bleed into existence, this creature. The ones that he's seen before, too, from outside. Yeah, pet's feet. Oh, they hate it. Yeah, my dog hates it too. She's very precious with her feet, so... Yep. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair on them, it's like walking on a stove, so I totally get it. So we wait, and I see it, a subtle change in the texture of the walls, some spectral anomaly where the light plays tricks on the colour. Not a moment later do I see the creature, slithering serpent all red and silver coils, bleed from the plastic sheen. I watch as it slithers, and I'm going to use twists because I've used coils to describe its body, over the neoplastic surface. We've got neoplastic here and neoplastic here. Plastic. It dives into the fabric. You can say fabric even though it's not like textile fabric. You can use fabric to deter like to mean fundamental substance. Its body twisting and spinning. We've got twists. Its body curling and spinning. Just F7 thesaurus, this guy. And by that I mean like I'm running out of words for me to say like coiling, twisting, curling, spinning. I'm sort of in a race to sort of preempt myself here. But yeah, its body curling and spinning, and for a moment it's lost to me. There are more of them. I begin to see dozens of these half-silver, half-red creatures roaming the building's surface. Some kind of maintenance robot, I say, fairly certain. Fixing, maintaining structural integrity. Juliet laughs and taps my forehead. I didn't know there was such a prodigious brain in there. As we walk, the sun fades from sangaree red to a pale eggshell white. Eggshell. I feel a drop of something cold splash onto my cheek. Juliet brings her finger to her lips. Rain, she says gleefully, not like Magnolia's. This is pure. Brings a finger to her lips. Eyeing the drop. That makes sense. The rain's cold and it tastes better than any of the crap I've ever gotten out of my apartment's hose. But even it's not enough to make me want to stay in this place for any longer than I have to. In the pale moonlight, the structures around us have become huge, haunted spectres watching over us. Had become a huge haunted... That watch over us. Keep the personification going. Remnants of something once full of life, but now completely silent. It's a run-on, and I like the run-ons. Get rid of the comma there. Nice. We walk another 20 minutes or so without saying a word. You can get rid of the comma there as well. Then I catch Juliet glaring at me. Her lips are inside her mouth as if she's trying to stop herself from talking. Her lips are inside her mouth. Like, I know what you mean. Like, she's sort of... She's pursing her lips. So, let's replace that. She's... purpose. Pursing her lips. Nah. Full stop. Lips purse. White. As if she's trying to stop herself from talking. That sentence I think has a bit more motion to it rather than her lips are inside her mouth, which is a very weird way of describing pursed lips. It sounds English is full of shorthand ways to visually convey information. Pursing lips is one of them because it means exactly this. And when you say what pursing lips means in a deconstructed breakdown way, it's like, oh, it sounds funny when you hear what it actually is, and the shorthand for it is so much more elegant. It's weird, I don't know how to describe that. I don't know what this is called. Shorthand, I guess. I'm sure there's a word for it. Some English professor out there is probably mid-sentence being like, actually, it's called this. Can't believe you don't know that. To which I say to that person, fair point. Because I should know. But I don't. So, oh well. We're all here to learn though, and I find as I go through lots of different people's stories, I never stop learning things about how other people write and how to structure a story. It's always really good to look at somebody else's work, whether it's in a published form or an unpublished form, and just to keep asking questions about why things are the way they are, in an almost scientific sense. Maybe not an empirical sense, but in a way that you want to learn, that you're curious about how writing works. Just like this, like I was wondering why this was sitting not so well with me until I wrote it out again. So an author's supposed to show rather than say. Oh yes, we talk about this a lot at Pandas from Mars. It's a showing and telling balance. So authors are supposed to show rather than say or rather than tell. Now there's always but there is a balance between showing something and telling something outright. In a noir story, you can forgive the narrator for sometimes just telling detail, because it's how noir stories are told. This, for instance, up here is showing. So, it's, or either that or it's a very eloquent tell that reads like a show. I'm not really sure which, but let's try and find an example of telling. So her lips are inside her mouth is telling. Lips pursed white is also telling. So here you go. So as if she's trying to stop herself from talking, which is actually quite a good tell. It's the narrator empathizing with one of the characters. which can be really useful. If you wanted to convert this into a show, you'd say lips pursed white. Juliet hums with frustration. And I stop, wait, for her to spill the beans or something like that. That cuts it down and really shows you as a reader that you understand that David, the narrator, understands what's going on. I'm not so fussed about ensuring that there's absolutely no telling in a story. I think that there is always a place where you can take a step back and tell detail. It's just that if it's all tell, it becomes a bit of a drag to read. So we'll continue through and we'll keep this in mind. It's just something that I guess you have to play a bit intuitively, you have to play it by ear. What is it? I ask impatiently. Who was she? I frowned. She? Or he? Or it? Or whatever, she says, raising her arms innocently. I don't follow. You're Ouroboros. Ouroboros. Excuse me, I'm gonna control... Just double check the definition of this word. Okay, this makes more sense now. And an Ouroboros is the symbol of the snake eating its tail, representing infinity. I instinctively glance at my left index finger, which is an LY, and see the faded remnants of the ancient tattoo of a snake eating its tail. So who was she, your Ouroboros? So like, I guess this is the modern equivalent of, instead of having a ring there, it's like an Ouroboros tattoo, the snake tattoo. Now, I instinctively glance at my left index finger. This ly adverb, if you take it out, I glance at my left index finger and see the faded. Yeah, so... Instinctively, I glance at my left index finger would also be good, or I instinctively glance. I probably want to put it at the start, to be honest. Like, instinctively I glance. I don't think I've ever shown a ly adverb, sorry. I don't think I've ever shown one starting a sentence. See, TTLICC and I have been talking about this for a few streams, but if you wanted to get rid of instinctively, you could just say, without even thinking, I glance at my left index finger. So, does it add or take away anything? No. I think if you front end instinctively I glance at my left index finger, it means exactly the same thing, has the same impact as without thinking, without second thought, without so much as a pause. It's all fluff. Cut to the chase, say instinctively, ignore anyone who tells you that ly adverbs, adjectives, you should never, ever, 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 ever use them. There are lots of cases where you shouldn't, but this is one where it's just like, there's no other clean way that you can say in as few words, one word, with instinctively. And it doesn't drag the pace of the story down too much either, so you can forgive it for that. So you see, those sorts of the rules that we often hear on the writing subreddit, or when we look at the writing advice on authors, you always have to not be didactic about or you shouldn't be rigid with rules. You shouldn't take every rule as sacrosanct, and you should always think about why people say don't use ly adjectives, don't tell but show. Why do you do that? And if you can justify breaking the rule in a sentence, then go ahead and do it. No one's gonna drag you down for it, especially if the writing quality is still good, I think. Just remember that, I think, about rules. It's a really important lesson, just to not get hung up about people telling you you must do things. The exception to that rule, my rule to you, is convention. So sometimes when we're talking about things like if you've got dialogue, don't put numbers in dialogue, spell them out with letters. Sometimes the convention, you know, you can't get around. Okay, so a grunt doesn't matter. No, I suppose not. I'm gonna put this symbol in again. This means for Nick, especially, I've been putting a lot of these in his past parts, but he'll know what this means. For you guys who may not know, it means I want Juliet to come in and to do a bit of action, like to sort of cross her arms or look to the sky, look away, to sigh. I want to break up the dialogue trees with, like, I take a deep breath. I want this to be there, basically, but Juliet to do it. No, I suppose not. I'm only curious. You know, very few have the marking. I mean, who'd be willing to give themselves to just one person? Don't know why that's there. An entire lifetime with a single someone else is unimaginable. Would be. Take a deep breath. Maybe you just like the imagination. I'm gonna get rid of the italics there. Italicize that, please. Oh no. Oh. Yes. Good. Okay. I didn't realize I had editing off. I take a deep breath. Maybe you just like the imagination. Is that why you won't step back? You don't want to lose her. I'm gonna take that here and put it here. This is a pretty nice pivotal moment in dialogue where it could use with a bit of action before she says it. I bite my tongue. I feel my heart ramming against my chest. My cheeks are warm and must be flushed red. Something like that I managed to mutter. Did she step back? Did she forget about you? It's okay, you know, everyone gets bored eventually. It's nothing to be ashamed about. I turn and grab Juliet by the shoulders, pivoting her towards me. Listen, sweetheart, you don't have any goddamned, I think which is one word, idea what you're talking about. So maybe just an idea, you stop talking about it. I let her go. She takes a step back from me. The blood strained from her face. The blood strained from her face is a tell, isn't it? This is a really good example of when we can come in and be like, Juliet crosses her arms, and in the pale moonlight of this horrible world, I see the pallid glow sour her face. The blood strained from her face. Same thing. It's a show because she crosses her arms, and sours her face. It still tells you detail though, doesn't it? This shows you that she's... It still tells. Except this shows, that tells. So you can do a 1-2 punch. You can show, and then you can back it up with a bit of a combination to sort of solidify the emotional effect that you're going for. If you're having trouble converting your telling into showing, just add a show before it. That's a bit of a dirty trick. Because the show can sometimes be a bit difficult to show. How do you show that the blood's drained from someone's face? And what does that tell you? It tells you that she's upset. So this in itself is actually a bit of a show. It tells you that the blood's drained from her face, but it shows you that she's upset. This shows and tells that she's upset without telling you explicitly that she's upset. Yeah. It can get a bit complex sometimes, so we have to always come back to, is it telling you the detail? Is it telling you that she's upset? Or is it demonstrating that she's upset? And what does that look like? Alrighty, bear with me for a couple of minutes. I want to go and grab something to drink because my voice is getting a bit croaky. So, sit tight. I'll just be like a minute. Just want to go and get a glass of water. Back in a sec. What happened to all the tea? Good question. Very good question. I've had a lot of tea today. I kind of feel like I should just step away from the teapot for a bit. So I think water will be good for me. But hey, I've got chocolate, so that's the next best thing. Yeah. I find out, like, I'm pretty sensitive to caffeine, I find, so, like, past 10:30, 10 o'clock, if I have tea, it prevents me from getting to sleep easy, but I found that if I don't have tea and if I stick with water, I fall asleep much quicker. And I mean, it's not like I'm drinking super caffeinated green tea or anything, it's just black tea, but I don't know. Maybe it's psychological. I'm not entirely sure that what I'm saying is scientifically correct. Probably not. But yeah, I'm sure someone's done a study on the effects of caffeine and like the dose prior to people sleeping and how people sleep. It'd make a really good study actually. We could even do like saliva hormone testing. You could do like protein samples from mice. Oh, that'd be a good project. I want to keep my mind focused on writing though. I do enough science during the day. I'm a PhD student at uni, so I get my dose of science and then I come home and I write and I don't do any science. So I want to keep it that way. When will the stream end? What does not kill you makes you you. Hello Ben Whitman, good to see you again. If so to answer your question, Pandas from Mars, it usually ends at around 11:30. That's when I try and aim to sort of wrap it up. PhD in molecular science. I'm doing a proteomic investigation into quantifiable change between sample states, and I'm looking at multiple testing corrections and Q-value overcorrections in determining whether or not differential states of protein. Yeah, no, that is what I'm looking at, and I decided to cut myself off because I could just keep going. with that sort of pseudo nonsense rambling. But yeah, no, that's what I do. I look at proteins and I look at them between different states, and I compare different types of tissues and the sorts of proteins that they express. So it's kind of like the next step up from genetics. You got your blueprint of genes. Genes make proteins. They do other things, but they make proteins, and that's what I'm interested in. So, like, if you have two different types of tomato plants, you keep one in the sun, you keep the other in the shade, and you grow them up at the same time. What sorts of protein level differences do you see in their tissues? Do you get different levels of heat shock proteins in the ones that grow in the sunshine, for instance? So we use our techniques to sort of do comparisons between states, and I'm looking at the validity of those comparisons. So quaternary structures, proteomics is mainly focused on primary structures, but so the quaternary protein structures where you have protein constellations is a good way of thinking about it. So you have like a fully formed protein, and then you have more of it in a configuration. Good example is your hair, keratin. That's a trimer. It's a different, it's one protein, keratin, wrapped around itself 3 times. So you have 3 different keratins braided together. That's the quaternary structure of keratin. Yes. Sorry, Ben Whitman says, "What does not kill you makes you you. If what didn't kill me makes me me, I'd be a big pot of black tea, because that's basically what I am. I drink tea, and I leave the tea bag in. I'm one of those barbarians that doesn't take the tea bag out, so I'll just be drinking concentrated tea. So yeah, that's basically what I am. So you're the kind of people in grade school technically hate because you added a chapter in science with your face on the first paragraph. Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. No, I haven't got to that stage yet, but everyone hates those people. Even the people who are themselves those people, just they hate themselves. It's like, oh, I'm that guy, aren't I? I've now done enough research that I am in a textbook, and students are gonna hate me, and I hate me too. So yeah, scientists. So yeah, that's my PhD. Yeah, we basically just look at the primary structure of the protein, basically what it's made of, its individual constituent amino acids. They're like the Lego building blocks that go to make up a protein. Yeah. This is sexy, thank you. I I enjoy what I do. I never thought of my work as sexy, but yeah, sexy in like in an intellectual sense. Mm. Yeah, it's very sexy. Yeah, but when I come home and I do writing, it's the last thing I want to think about is proteins and programming, and as fun as it is and as much as I love it, when I'm in writing mode, I'm in writing mode, and I'm there. And there's a lot of crossover between writing and science. Scientists have to write an awful lot. They write papers, they write reviews, they write grants, they write um, basic conference things for each other. So to be a good scientist is to also be a good writer as well. And you need to have a good writing ability. I did my master's in. Thank you for asking. I actually did it in honeybees. I looked at trying to figure out if we could do a correlation. So that's like if A influences B, a correlation between the amount of time that a bee spends outside of the hive, which is the time it spends foraging, versus any protein signatures. So for instance, if a bee does a lot of foraging, is it more stressed? And we can look at that on the protein level. And that was my master's project. So I got to play with honeybees, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really good project. And yeah, I got just to preempt a question, but I think will come up. I got stung a lot, Bees aren't. I play with honeybees. Yes, they're not unfriendly. Bees are very. They go by their nose. So if they can't smell fear or if they can't smell a distress signal from other bees, then they're very placid. They won't actively attack you unless you're a dick. Um, unless you're at the very front of their hive, like sticking your fingers into the, like in Blade Runner 2047, where Ryan Gosling sticks his hand into the beehive. Don't do that; they'll sting you. But if you go in from the top and you put some gentle smoke in, they'll be fine with you. They'll come out and they'll land on you. They'll go on your face and your hands. You're wearing protective gear, obviously, but they won't sting you. They'll just crawl over you. And they're pretty nice, actually. Um, when bees are upset, they release a pheromone that smells like ripe banana. Like, you know, when you have a banana that's been sitting in your fruit bowl for like a week too long, it's black. It smells like that, and it's an angry smell. And when you smell it, you know to put down whatever you're doing and you walk away because those bees are angry. Stick your finger in. No, 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 no. Not without the glove on. Even with the glove on, they sting you through gloves. We're talking thick gloves here that are designed for beekeepers. They'll sting you through it. Yeah, yeah. God bless bees. They're stingers. Yeah. Anyway, why don't we dive back into into the editing? I won't bore you with my science anymore. I'm sorry, she says. I only meant that I understand. I'll answer a few questions. You didn't mean any odd people with weaker weaker refugees, did you? I know where this is going. No, fortunately not. No, I think Nicholas's Cage run-in with bees is a lot more deadly than my run-in with bees. Ah, they're in my eyes. Ah. No, I didn't have any of that. Like one or two, we'll get into the bonnet, and actually no, that didn't happen to me. That happened to my friend. It was unlucky. Um, Bees won't swarm at you unless they're swarming full stop. Like if you go up to a beehive and open it up and spray smoke in it, they won't swarm at you. They won't be like Nicolas Cage level angry. Um, yeah, I think you'd have to be Nicolas Cage to anger bees like that. Why were those bees angry? Like how do you collect that many angry bees and keep them agitated enough so that when you put them in a wicker basket, they yeah, I don't know. Movies don't need to make sense. Hmm. Um, I only meant that I understand, but she doesn't. She doesn't have the tattoo. She sure as hell hasn't lived the life I have. All the same, I feel a pang of guilt make its way up my throat. Fair point. Fair point. I've got quite a soft spot for National Treasure. The first two. I think is there three? I don't know, but I enjoy those movies. They're fun. It's okay. I say it's just rain stopped. And for the first time, I noticed the black sky above us. How it's punctuated every few steps by tiny shimmering crystals, as if God has. Excuse me. There are two hazards there. Tipped a bowl of sugar over the top of the dome. I like this one. Look, there's a double run-on sentence. One there, one there. Um, I don't think I've seen Lord of War. I'm assuming that's a Nicolas Cage movie we're talking about. Um, Stars, Juliet says simply. Yeah, my voice is a little more than a whisper. Guess you don't see them often. Probably not much of a view below the fog. No, not much of one. It's been a long time since I saw them. You forget how pretty they are after a while. I mean, I know these aren't the real ones, but all the same, Juliet smiles and watches me as I watch the stars. I force myself out of my reverie. Come on, let's get this over with. This is quite nice. It's a nice little sort of punctuated end to um quite a turgid scene between the two characters, so it ends on a nice note. A thing of beauty, you say? Maybe I should make the effort to watch it. Let's one, two, ooh, 8 pages left. Where am I? I'm 4 in halfway. I will go down to the next little mini section. So we'll read through and we'll come back. It's an hour or so before we arrive at the next pedestal. The same lady as before coalesces from the nothingness as we approach, like an angel against the darkness. Welcome to Alpha Q. Your input into Memtech is vital for Project Elixir to become a reality. Your sacrifice is appreciated far more than you'll ever know. On behalf of Eden Research Facility and on behalf of mankind, thank you. She flashes a toothsome smile, then is squished down into a single mote of light before even that vanishes. So she flashes a toothsome smile. She flashes a toothsome smile, then is squished down into a single mode of light before even that vanishes, before vanishing. I don't mind this. It's an odd sentence, but it's good. It's a funny way of saying that. A long shot of how bullet is made, where it ends up. Oh wow, that's pretty brutal. Wow. Hmm. I've got a vague, very vague impression about what this movie is about. I wouldn't be able to put it into words without just babbling. But it sounds really interesting. It sounds quite quite dark. Yeah, I should try and see it. Don't know why YouTube's being a bit funny with the redirects. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, hmm. I'm just trying to think of anything else that sounds like this scene with a sort of mineral to consequence sort of thing. It's a really interesting thing. You can make a very interesting story just from something like that, like looking at an intangible object being fashioned by humans and then ending in the destruction of someone's life. It's a really interesting idea. Which has already been done, of course, but in a literary sense, that would also make a really cool story too. Cool in the sense of how it's structured. That the topic would be quite dark. Um, Sacrifices, Juliet. People giving their minds to testing, I guess. The seed of an idea is starting to germinate in my mind of Eisenstatz's purpose here. Testing without even knowing if they could get it back, you mean? Maybe. If so, that's a hell of a sacrifice. They must have thought the cause worthy. We carry on past another dozen or so buildings, checking each number embossed on their entrance doorways. Finally, we see it, 93J. Do you think he's inside? Juliet asks. She sounds nervous. What are you going to do with him, if he is? I ask. Take him back for further examination. Probably wipe him, eventually. Magnolia's denizens can't know about this place, about any of this. There'd be chaos. There's a digital lock on the door. I type in the code, and the thick neoplastic doors slide open. Good, so because we've gotten rid of neoplastic repetition above, we can use it again here. Welcome to Alpha Q at 93J, says a male voice. It takes me a moment to realize it's coming from speakers in the ceiling. That it's another automatic message. Full stop. Just put capital A, another automatic message. I'll put the capital A there. First floor, pre-sleep analysis. Second to fifth floor, data structuring and interpretation. Sixth floor, upload and testing. The voice stops and I consider for a moment. Six, I say, grabbing Juliet's hand. How do you know? She asks, and I pull her through a doorway. We're met by a lift and a flight of stairs. Not taking any chances, I head for the stairs. He's got a lot of voices in his head, I say, as I sprint up the first flight, half dragging Juliet behind me. He thinks he does, yes, she replies, already breathing hard. He doesn't believe we're real, but the voices in his head, well, they're a different kettle of fish, and he's going to overwrite us, everyone. Next time you go to sleep, it'll be someone else waking up. We reach the 6, and I burst through the double doors. Okay, here is the crux of parts 1 to 6 are culminating in this idea. He's going to overwrite us, everyone. Next time you go to sleep, it'll be someone else waking up. Now, I assume Eisenstadt is the same presence as the one in part 6, the other AI. But there's a double dash here. So we reach a 6 and I burst through the double doors. A mammoth vector coffin, easily 5 times the size of any I've ever seen, lies in the center of the huge room. To its side, there's a man standing by a wide terminal. Eisenstadt's hands are a blur as he moves between screens. Good. No, I think that's fine. The detail pushes forward. It rushes a little bit, but that's okay. I think we can be a bit forgiving because this is the crux, and when you get towards like the rise in your story, the bit by bit detail of what we go through can be sort of put to the side a bit in favor of just getting the reader to that emotional conclusion. Step away from the terminal, I tell Eisenstadt, reaching for my pistol. Eisenstadt ignores me and turns to Juliet. You're early, it says. It's the first time I've heard it speak. Its voice sounds twisted and mangled, like a cacophony of voices trying their best to speak in unison, but not quite managing. Yeah. What does he mean? I growl at Juliet, changing my aim to her chest. I don't know, Juliet replies, her eyes wide. I swear, for some reason, probably foolish. I choose to believe her. It is no matter to us. You shall be witness to humanity's rebirth. He turns to the console and continues swiping and touching. He must know the security passwords, the commands needed for his task, everything. He knows because he's been here before, lived here. Step away, I repeat, aiming the gun back at him. Again, he ignores me. Juliet walks over to him, her hands spread out in front of her. I know you think that what you're doing is right, but it's not. It's very, very wrong. Even if you really were bringing back 1 billion long-dead souls, you're sentencing another billion to death. Are you really willing to be responsible for that, Eisenstadt? So, I'm guessing what's happening is that Juliet, David, everyone that's currently alive is a vessel whose memories are sort of being swapped into and out of their bodies. Now, I don't know if the process of skimming replaces like wholesale the personality into the body, so you're not actually skimming, you're just getting rid of people and putting new ones in like a sort of conveyor belt system. But it seems like this Project Elixir was like a sort of mass digitization of the human species that went somehow wrong, resulting in a world in which there are all these sort of vessels, clones that live, and the company that's responsible for doing this skims people's memories, but what they're really doing is swapping them back and forward. That's my understanding of the story, up until this point. So I'm just thinking out loud here so I can make sure that I'm on a page. Doesn't matter if I'm on the right page, I just need a page to be on. Eisenstadt pauses for a moment and looks at Juliet. We are polynomine. We are many. We are the only ones. You, all of you, are only figments of Ex Nihilo's imagination. Playthings, test subjects. Her link to being human, her being the AI, to finding out what it means to be human. It's Juliet's turn to pause. Then, we're what exactly? In AI's dreams? Polynomian returns to his computer. It doesn't take him long to finish. A plume of steam drifts out of the vector coffin as it opens. Polynomian reaches it in 3 long strides. No, I say, followed by a deep breath. Eisenstadt, you're in there somewhere. Even if we were all born from an AI, it doesn't mean we're not real. If you get into that machine, it really will be a coffin. He turns to me and grins, showing his chipped front teeth. You don't believe you're human. You believe in what we're... You don't believe you're human. You believe in what we're doing here in saving humanity. He's about to step into the coffin when Juliet jumps at him, throwing her arms around his neck and trying to pull him back. Eisenstadt flings her off him. Her head slams into the vector coffin. He bends down and picks her up by the neck with one hand. Her body dangles limply from his arm as he begins to squeeze. He stops as soon as he hears my pistol click. Put it down, I command. Now. He considers for a moment. You won't murder us. We are the last human. Humanity's extinction would be on your shoulders. I hesitate. My gun arm trembles. Eisenstadt begins to squeeze Juliet's neck. As far as I'm concerned, I say as I pull the trigger, we're all human. I wouldn't structure it like that. I think it needs to be, as far as I'm concerned, we're all human. And I pull the trigger. The blood and brain matter from Eisenstadt's head decorate the white of the vector coffin behind him in a manner some might call artistic. That's a real tone jump, isn't it? We've got this very tense scene and all the and this quite tongue-in-cheek. I'm going to keep it in there. I think it's fun. Juliet's body falls to the floor like a rag doll, soon followed by Eisenstadt's. I run to Juliet. Her eyes are bloodshot and her breathing is weak. Juliet, I whisper, gently stroking her hair. It's sticky with blood from where it slammed into the back of the coffin. She doesn't answer. She's dying. I lift her up tenderly in my arms and take her over to the vector coffin. Anything can be artistic. I agree, TTLACC. If you do anything with passion, it can be artistic. So, despite me pausing a little bit before and talking about what I think has happened, I'm still not entirely sure. They started off being clones, but they're really just vessels. Eisenstadt is the last human, but he's got all the memories of humanity deep inside of him. Is he an archive? Is he a digital representation? Is he a hologram projected by the AI? I'm not sure. Is the AI still alive? I'm not sure. Is the AI ex nihilo? I'm not sure. What was he trying to do? Eisenstadt wanted to step into the vector coffin and release the memories of humanity into the system, thereby doing a mass purge of the system into Elixir, the dome, which remotely controls all the clones on the surface. The clones will then be flushed with their old memories, and David and Juliet will die in the sense that their personalities will kind of be swapped around. I purposely, especially so. Colour, size, shape, smell. You understand art, I see. Connoisseur is the terminology. What's up with YouTube telling me it's... Just gonna check that I'm streaming through YouTube. Just give me a moment. Yes, I am live. Good. So I have a lot of questions and not many answers, but that's okay. I think the mystery surrounding it's really interesting too. I can't suggest too much here. I think the writing has a functional fluidity to it. And it was enjoyable too. It was when you come to the emotional climax of your story, the way it's written kind of falls to the wayside a little bit. You can focus a lot more on action and the characters coming to the realizations, I suppose. Yeah, he said he was going to try and write. This TTLACC's comment. He said he was going to write it up into a novella or a novelette. A novel omelette. Something, I guess, like, well, how long is a novella? Like 20,000 words? A novelette would be less than that. He said he's going to compile it all and try and write it as one major story. So I guess that would be about 10,000 words? Yeah. Let's look at the epilogue night as well. Magnolia 8 days later. Oops. Excuse me, just put text black. Well, Vidana. I don't have a specific text I like, it's just Vidana. I've been doing it for this one. I wake to the once familiar hiss of my vector coffin's hydraulics. As they force the lid to slide open. As they force the lid open. In the same way that if something seems to, if something starts to, if something to slide open, just say, force the lid open. Cambria? I'm not sure what you mean. Cambria. Oh, you mean the font? Not bad. Not bad at all. I'll make it a little bigger so I can see it. Quite nice. My kudos to you and your Cambria font. My eyes are met by the blinding white light of its insides, and plumes of steam drift and disperse around me. Blinding white light of its insides makes it sound organic, like you're inside a giant squishy monster. That's fine. And plumes of steam drift and disperse around me. Let's get rid of drift and disperse and keep the insides theme going. And plumes of steam waft around me. Oh, what have I... Oh yeah, excuse me. Let me edit this instead to Cambria. Put suggesting back on. There we go. The story of how they got their macabre epithet rises to the front of my mind. It's been a few hundred years since the last malfunction. I can't help think, but I can't help but think of the poor lady, of how she must have screamed and scratched at the lid. How she must have begged and pleaded with God to free her as she slowly withered away. But so all that was left of her fingers were short stubs of blunt bone. Personally, I think whoever they are full of shit. Still makes you wonder. Vector coffin. Yeah, that's quite clever. As always, my shower's set to cold and it washes away the haze from my first refresh in who knows how long. Thought I'd have felt different to this. Thought each would? Yeah. Oh, no, thought I'd have felt different. Guess one night in the coffin and a big cold water can't wash away bad dreams. That's a good question, Van Whitman. I was wondering if it was a reference to something. They thought she was dead, but she wasn't. I wonder. Maybe. I think that's the point of the sorry, not the point. I think that's what Nick was trying to say. They. I think it's a hypothetical they. Like you know, they say all that's left of fingers. The people who tell the story, they are full of shit. I think that's what he means. Yeah, so it's never clear who they are. That's right. 300 found her mummified corpse actually at the praying pose with scratches on the lid and on her face. That's spooky. Makes for a good story, doesn't it? Yeah, so maybe Nick borrowed that as inspiration, which is a perfectly fine thing to do. It makes for a good story, whether it's factual in the real life, which is I'm mousing over real life here, or if it's fiction. Either way, it's good. A thick brown sludge spills out of the hose and into a dog-eared mug on the sideboard as the sour tang of the coffee wafts up my nostrils. I wonder why I didn't just choose whiskey, like every other morning. I sip it as I look out of my apartment's bay window. I think you can get rid of that. As the sour tang of the coffee wafts at my nostrils, I wonder why I didn't just choose whiskey like every other morning. No whiskey in the coffee. It's a fair point. Well, I wonder why he doesn't just combine the two. Why not both? I was gonna make a try and weave some sort of image here about some sort of drink must be like an accompaniment for the view outside. Just instead of saying I sip it as I look out of the apartment's bay window. I think that's a bit of a dead sentence. We can expand on that idea and make it a bit more fluid with the last sentence. As the sour tang of the coffee wafts up my nostrils, I wonder why I didn't just choose whiskey like every other morning. So this is how you'd spice up a sentence like, I sip my coffee and look out the window. You continue the idea that like the whiskey, why didn't you choose whiskey? It certainly doesn't taste as good, doesn't provide that kick that usually accompanies my morning window ritual. What's the ritual? Oh, he's obviously looking outside. It's strange seeing Magnolia from this height. The world's a grey blur below me. Sorry, can you guys see that? I'll zoom in a bit more. There you go. Punctuated by slowly moving soft greens and yellows. They're lighted up by the endless smog lying like a blanket between us. I'm not sure what the greens and yellows are. Lights. Foliage. Flore. I'm not sure. Above me, dark, pregnant rain clouds hide the sun and get ready to unleash their burden. With a sigh, I click a button and the window dims to black, replaced by a pale moon and distant flickering stars. The last of my coffee doesn't want to leave the bottom of the mug, so I dip my finger in and force the reluctant caffeine out. Caffeine's a tiny chemical. I mean, most chemicals are tiny. I don't know, yeah, I don't want caffeine there. I want dregs. This is me at night mode when I don't have to think about science. I don't want science, I want writing. I want art. Excuse me. This is just personal preference. Well, I mean, like, Look, strictly speaking, you can't dig caffeine out unless it's like pure granular caffeine or a smear of actual caffeine. Dregs is fine, just say dregs. The rain hits before I make it to the Richardson building. I pull the collar of my like Macintosh, tightly around my neck and adjust my hat. The rotten water hits like bullets exploding off my fedora's rim and screaming to the ground. Before you complain about fedoras, this is neo-noir. Fedoras are in neo-noir. You can't argue with that. Science is mathematical art. This is true. Well, art is mathematical science. Mathematical is art science. Oh, sorry. I'm just having a bit of fun. That's really annoying how it keeps doing that. It keeps popping up. Gotta smash those caffeine pills for the coffee. I wonder what comes out of that hose, if it's just like ground caffeine. I wonder why he doesn't just take caffeine pills. It's the future. Everything should be in pill form, like in the Jetsons. Thankfully, it's not long until I see the tallest building in Magnolia appear out of a distance. Appear out of a distance. It looms ahead of me like a giant. Looms ahead of me like a metal giant whose head is lost in the clouds. Like a metal giant with his head lost in the clouds, never knowing what its body might be up to. I'm here to see Miss Browning, I say to the skinny man behind the reception desk. He looks at me for a moment, his thick brows turning into a single curious slug. He doesn't remember me from my first visit here, back when all this started. Strange. You may go up, he says. It appears Miss Browning is expecting you. She'll be there as I exit the lift, her face a study in contrary emotions. Happy, more than that maybe, but she's also trying to keep an air of professionalism. Yeah, if you had pill form food all the time, you'd get very bored of it, wouldn't you? So much of food isn't just what's even nutrition value of it, you know, it's the texture of it, the smell of it, the temperature of it. Yeah, I think we'd get very bored if everything was just pills. Spice pills. Spice up your other pills with some spice pills. Mix and match them pills. It's a pill extravaganza. David, she says, extending a hand. It's good to see you again. I pull her in close and give her a tight hug. When I let go, she steps back and bites her lip. She's either trying to stop a smile or prevent herself from unleashing a verbal tirade. This way, please. She leads me down a series of Sagittarian corridors? I've never seen that word before. Learning new words. Isn't this great? Gloomy. Sure. How have you been? I ask. Fine, I suppose. Back to real life, the boring monotony of one's daily chores. I grunt. I get that. You work well, David. You used the restorative cube. My heart beats in double time. You can tell? Just by looking, I mean. You look healthy, younger. What made you change your mind? Guess I thought it's worth sticking around for a bit longer. Besides, I think maybe you could do with someone watching out for you occasionally. How are you finding the new apartment? This is a note for Nick. Just to come in and add some more body movement. I think there might be something wrong with the hose. Oh, this morning I actually kind of enjoyed the coffee from it. Julie lets out a laugh, but quickly smothers it. I realised we've been through this corridor before. It's the one with all the doors where I heard noises coming from behind them. Only now there are no noises, just footsteps echoing around us. What happened to them, I ask? I noticed very faded initials on a handful of doors. RMS, DOPLEN. So it's Eisenstadt. That's probably David. RMS, the Royal Maritime Service. The patients or whatever they were in those rooms, what happened to them? Oh, I decided that they need resetting. They are fine, you could say. They have new memories, new lives. We tried our best with them, but other step back malfunctions? Yes, she looks almost genuinely sad. I think I even see tears welling in her eyes. We arrive at a wooden door and walk into a familiar room, a mahogany desk with 2 seats. Ah yes, there's a plant on my desk this time, with huge leaves that droop down around it. To my eyes at least, it looks real, but that's not saying much. Sit, please. I do. I lean back and look at Juliet, staring into her midnight blue eyes. Take out the contact, I say. She hesitates, then reaches into her left eye and squeezes it. As she pulls the membrane away, the black pupil reveals itself. It hasn't healed, she says, almost sounding ashamed. It doesn't matter how many times I rest or for how long. That cube is a scar's better than being dead, I say pragmatically. Think of it as a souvenir. She nods. Yes, thank you for what you did. I'll never forget it. Exterminating humanity, you mean? She cringes. For saving my life. Besides, perhaps Eisenstadt was insane. Perhaps there was nothing in his head apart from his delusions. Guess we'll never know about that. We did find Eden, and enough, she says, raising her hand. You were never to speak of Eden outside of this room. I honestly don't want to have to reset you. I catch her staring at the tattoo on my finger. She sees me watching and flicks her eyes up. Well, I'm grateful for that, I say. That you didn't reset me, I mean. We sit in silence for a moment, eyeballing each other. David, she says. Juliet, I reply with a half smirk. Then I notice something odd. My mouth drops slowly open as her right eye begins to cloud, darkening to a void-like blackness. Your eye, I pointed at her. Her head tilts to her shoulder and her face seems to glaze over. David, I do not want to raise my children, but I will if I must. Juliet? There are others. Those who gave Eisenstadt the memories. Ex nihilo? Juliet's eye begins to drift back to ocean blue, and she lifts her head up again, taking in a deep breath. It's just me, David. She smiles, and as she slides a manila folder across the table to me. We'll speak again soon. This presence is now inhabiting Juliet. The same presence who inhabited Eisenstadt. I still can't figure out if the memories in Eisenstadt and Juliet, if it's ex nihilo, is a digital thing being projected into them, or if it's biological, or if it's a snake, or I'm still not 100% sure here, and what the relationship is with... See, when she's taking him past all of these people's doors here, this is obviously David. That's Eisenstadt too. I think it's almost as if there are multiple copies of David. There are multiple Davids. And they're going off in different timelines or something. Is she high? What? I think she's being infested with the ex nihilo thing. So when she gets into the coffin... No, they killed Eisenstadt. How did part... Excuse me? The last part end. Part 7. And take her over to the Vector coffin. So does he stick her into the Vector coffin, skim her memory off, merge her with the digital archives of humanity, project her up to the surface where she's now another clone. Now she is part of the ex nihilo mess in the same way that David is. I'm not sure. I don't really have enough of a clear answer to say what's gone on here. Now, it's tricky to know where my failure to understand as a reader is as an editor, it's tricky to suggest things to clear up what is on my part a misunderstanding about a narrative element. I feel as though that there are these elements to the story that are they began off as when Nick was writing the story. I think he started off these ideas into different strands, and then had a bit of trouble maybe reconciling. I mean, I'm just purely projecting here. I'm not casting aspersions or anything. But what I mean is that there are a lot of different elements in this story that start off somewhere, and then a new one comes and supersedes it, and then there's another one down here, and I don't know if they all tie together neatly, or even if they should. Um, so my impression of a story is that I really don't know what happened. It's interesting, and there's a lot of cool stuff. I'll talk about without dropping my pen, or fiddling around too much. Give me for that. I'll give some feedback verbally because I don't think I can type this down too easily. It's 1 hour 55 minutes into the stream. Voice note 1. Oops. Wrong one. Let's go back to the epilogue. This is something that I think we can all benefit from discussing because it's something that I think for deep science fiction stories, there's this balance between introducing an idea that you can let the reader follow on their own at their own pace. It's a non-essential yet necessary. No, it can't be non-essential. Necessary. It's not essential description, but it adds so much into the story when the reader is left to their own devices to figure it out. The best example I can give is the sea in this story. Do you remember the sea? It's a black mess. Now, I don't know if it's like the carbonized remains of humanity or something, or if it's just like a mess of digital noise or something, but it's black, it's thick, and it's uninhabitable. And there's when we first were introduced to this ocean, to this body of water, it felt like a really interesting idea in that it wasn't explained. And because it wasn't explained, it had a sheen of mystery around it, and we as readers were invited to understand it on our own level. Now, that works really well for background detail. It works well for the fog in the city. It works well for the noise. It works well for those doors that we don't really know who's behind or why. Really interesting details. What it doesn't work so well for is the main narrative glue. Are they clones? Are they holograms? Are they projections? Are they digital remnants of an AI? Is it an AI's dream? These are 5 questions that I have. I think there were 5 of them there. I don't know the answer to any of them. Maybe it's because I'm stupid, and maybe it's because I wasn't putting the dots together. But there are strands, and equally, all of those strands that have an equal chance in my mind of being right. There's nothing that suggests it's one thing or another. In some ways, it's nice that I'm reading a story that's content to not worry about that answer, to really understand what ex nihilo is, what those weird snakes were, who was setting up this project at the bottom of the ocean. That's fine, the mystery can be good. But I feel like we need one solid idea to hang on to. The most solid one, if I had to pick them, it would be that human beings were willingly giving themselves and their brains, so they're having their brains scanned into this giant machine, and their bodies were being used as sort of vessels. So vessel, brain was being digitized in this big AI, and the AI would periodically like put these new consciousness, a new consciousness into these skimmed bodies, and then the surface process was quite similar too. That's what was happening. It was this AI controlled, which explains why Juliet has this familiarity with this with the facility and its operations. The relationship between her company and this thing at the bottom of the ocean, I think that's how it goes. So if that is the story that Nick wants to run with, then I think it might be worthwhile going back through and tightening up that main narrative arc, just so that the reader can have a bit of a strong understanding of what's going on. Oh yeah, they women. Yeah, they are. That's a big problem for you guys. I was chatting about it with my friends today. Um, because from the outside looking in, I mean, Australia doesn't have net neutrality to begin with. We don't. We're a country that doesn't have a clear legal framework for how net neutrality works. Fortunately, though, we don't have the kind of country where that has easy monopolization. Our internet infrastructure is very um, it's structured in such a way that even though we don't have net neutrality, we don't have tiered internet. We have a fairly free and open market. America's a different story though, so yeah, you guys have to fight for it because you could end up with a future in which you pay for packages like a Foxtel, like cable TV, for instance, where it's like you pay X amount of money and you get these websites. You pay a little bit more, you get premium like HD streaming lanes, and that's BS. Like, um, you should pay something to your ISP, probably like pay for a quota, that's fine, and then you should have speedy internet that's agnostic to what you're looking at. That's like the ethos of the internet. So yeah, you guys got to fight for it because I can't. It's because I'm not American and my country doesn't have net neutrality. But it's not a problem for us. It's a problem for you. So fight for it. Yeah, it's sort of the other way around Van Whitman. So some of them's some countries don't have it. And the countries that do, when it's threatened, it the corporate environment in America is very different from what it is in Europe and Australia. So um, it's that more than anything else that's really threatening. Just the idea of packaged internet is bizarre. So yeah, and it is important too because otherwise you end up with a system like you don't want China's internet. It's very different. China's internet suffers from different problems of like state censorship and firewalling. Um, that capitalism can be used to just as good effect. The idea that you pay more and you get better internet is just it's so antithetical to what the internet is. So yeah, but I don't know what you can do to stop it apart from contacting representatives and making noise on Reddit. Like, if you think it's important though, then fight for it and make your voice count. Um, and don't vote for people who are silly. That's the number one rule. The voting's not compulsory in your country. So step one is to actually give a shit and vote. And step two is to then, try and influence politics with your own voice. It could be as simple as just contacting your representative, I suppose. Yeah. These are troubling times, to say the least. Yeah, I mean, if marches can be organised in the streets for an issue like this, then yeah, it's worth being physically present as well. Um, yeah, the world is going through a bit of a weird time. It's unstable, um, and yet very peaceful, peaceful in its instability. Um, yeah, and lots of governments are like lurching in very extreme directions, and um, lots of sort of humanitarian crises as well. It's a bit of a nasty time, so you just got to keep your eyes open and be aware of what's happening, I think. But that being said, I mean, we're also living in a very good time. The technology is wonderful. Modern medical sciences is brilliant. There's no global warfare that's killing lots of people, um, in like an ultra national sense. So it's You count your blessings, I guess. Yeah, you guys have your two-party system. Yeah, yeah, you need to stop that. First things first, you need to introduce a different style of voting. Hang on, let me find a good video about this. CBG first P. Here we go. This is a really good video explaining something quite fundamental about. So watch that at your own leisure. It's about the differences between first past the post voting systems and alternate vote and mixed proportional area representation votes. So these are the different styles of voting system. New Zealand and the Australian Senate use the mixed proportional representation for their parliament systems. Australia House of Reps uses the alternate vote system, and you guys and parts, I think the UK as well, use what's called a single vote first past the post system, which is you've seen it already. Very good, very good. Yep. So step one, get rid of that. Get rid of first past the post. It's horrifyingly undemocratic. Really bad for any democracy. Interesting about it. It's I agree with the second part of what you're saying. It's like it's not peaceful enough. Like you should always be striving for more peace and more unity, more prosperity. As for like relatively speaking, I think we are actually a lot more peaceful. If you look at human history over the past 1,000 years, like you had the 30 Years' War that ripped Europe apart from the Reformation. You had the 80 Years' War. You've had civil conflicts that just seem to be brewing year after year after year. World War One was horrifying. World War Two was horrifying. And yet, in the modern era, we're having less and less global or even regional conflict. The regional conflicts are much more isolated. So, in a warfare sense, we're peaceful. But the problem is that humans haven't changed, have they? As you say, like, judges are being murdered, actors are given death threats on TV. People are still people. It's just that we're getting our society is structured in such a way where we're getting better at not killing each other as easily, which is a good thing. But yeah, actually, are we more peaceful? Maybe not in our hearts, no. Into the grave. Yeah, there's a lot of hate there. I guess it's our responsibility to not continue on that hate and to think of a way in which we can better the world before we exit it. That's all we can ever do. A piece of the grave for all. Yeah, that's really nasty. I think the loss of a sensible dialogue between people from different sides of politics is something that's quite sad to see. Actually, there's a whole wealth of discussion that you can have when you bring together people from liberal and conservative backgrounds. You get them together, you get them talking with each other, and you can make something worthwhile and make something good. And I fear that it's just the polarization into the extremes is really worrying. So I guess all you can do is just be reasoned and calm about these types of discussions too. Don't be tempted to lurch into an extreme situation just because you want a quick and dirty answer. These problems, these political problems, are problems because people do that. They lurch into the wrong answer. They lurch into, like what's going on right now with things like regressive leftism and the alt-right. Lurching into the extremes doesn't help. It exacerbates the problem too. And we always need to come together and speak with people who are reasonable and willing to help, no matter what side of like that divide you're on. It's not about pandering to those extremes. It's about making sure that your country runs. Yeah. So that's the politics anyway. That's a little net neutrality um, and political spiel. So yeah. So I think my advice that I can give to Nick from tonight's stream, I think part 6 can actually, we can get rid of it. If you were to present the story to me without that part 6, without the focalization through the other two characters, the head of the facility, I think that the story could just be as strong, if not stronger. So just get rid of that, imbue the detail in part 7 and the epilogue, and I think it'll be a smooth end of the story. The other thing I really want to focus on is just to pick that one strand within the story that really help to focalize the reader's understanding of what's gone wrong, what's happened in the story. It's good to have all these little sort of sub threads that we can explore, but picking a central one and making it just that little bit stronger. So the idea of like mass human digitization followed by using the clones as vessels. A prologue. Hmm. It would fit as a prologue, but then because we have, look, I'm hesitant to ever suggest a prologue, and I think in this case it might actually weaken the story. It would fit as a prologue. That's a good suggestion. But I actually think that because of the way the story twists and turns from part 1 to part 5, where I love the setup and I love the twist that Juliet was responsible for the murder and that there was this sort of cloning conspiracy going on. I think if we had a prologue at the very start of a story, it wouldn't be as interesting. You'd either expect it coming, or you'd have this weird disconnected lurch between the first part and everything else that would come after it. I think I'd just rather see it gone, to be honest. It would make the story a bit cleaner too. Good. Alrighty. Prologues can be lazy writing. I don't like prologues for lots of reasons, and they're starting to fall out of favor. Like a beautifully written prologue can be a good addition to a story, but even then, it feels cheap. Like lazy writing is a good way to describe it because it feels like you should start the story where it starts. You shouldn't trick the reader with like, oh, really exciting stuff coming up, and just. And then you have chapter 1, boring, chapter 2, boring, chapter 3, boring, chapter 4 is like, oh, now we're getting a glimpse of that prologue. Don't write like that. Don't do it. Not at all. Don't do it. Instead, start the story where it starts and be confident in starting off slow. Don't front end a fun part and then have like chapter 1 being really like a down, because your reader will be like, oh, this is great, prologue's fine, and then chapter 1's like, blah. Don't do that. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. So maybe that's what I consider sort of lazy writing too. Cool. I might wrap up the stream fairly soon. Unless you guys got anything that you want me to answer, like to give like a mini lesson or something, or any questions you may have. But I think I'm happy to sort of leave Nick's story. I think like starting a movie with the leads having sex and then opening shot of a suburban life. Oh my god, that's so true. That's a really great way of putting it. Yeah. And why would you tell a story like that too? It's like like if even if you're talking to people and you're like, hey, you'll never guess what happened to me yesterday. Like, I mean, punchline, and then you have the build up straight after it. It's like, oh, someone got stabbed at the bus stop. Yeah, so then I woke up in the morning and I was having a really shitty day. Like, I don't know. You either have the stabbing at the bus stop or you have the shitty day in the morning. You don't bookend them together and be like, just for the sake of carrying the suburban life shot. Mm. Cool. Alrighty, so usually I stream on Wednesday nights, this time slot here, and 9 a.m. on Sunday, but I actually won't be here on Sunday. I'm taking the morning off. I need to do some study and some other things during that day. So the next time you'll see me will be next Wednesday at 9 p.m. this time. But I won't finish up right now because we've got how do you write in second person? Couple of ways you can do it. I'm looking at a story. I want to include a poll from the second person. So you can do it a couple of ways. You can etc., etc., etc. You're always the first person to leave a lecture theatre. There was a self-confidence you possessed, something intangible in your step, a bounce, a spring, as though you knew the content, lecture content, before it left the ghastly old mouth of our lecturer. It took me a long, long while to come to an understanding of why you were the way you were. Those lunchtimes we spent together on the silver benches by the sunshine, with the greenery of the world aglow for us. So that's one way in which you can operate a second-person point of view story. You have a character talking to the hypothetical, or it's not even a hypothetical, it's just another character within the story. But we can very clearly imagine this. It's two characters who are one's observing the other, in the same way that you could write this in a third person and it would be exactly the same content, but the effect would be different. Here's another one. Here you go. Here's another second person example. So this one actually has a lot less you. The wind was alive, oh how it roared in the deathly twilight of that war. Orange munitions exploding deep within its belly. Some operatic display of a grand human power, of anger, of stupidity, as if setting a firecracker underneath the toes of the beast could calm the storm. I remember standing at the division between beach and sea, with nothing but that orange monster to light my night. A Normandy lion. I wondered then, if you were to come by my side, to stand there and hold my hand, what sweet words of wisdom you would say to calm the storm in my heart. So you can actually do it this way. Write first person, and then sporadically address the second person. This is a really neat way because you don't have to focus so much on the you. You focus on the I. And that way you create a story that is much more personal, with very soft interjections of a second character. Someone very important to this soldier who's standing on the beach. Now the third thing you can do is actually... you can write an entire story in third person and then throw in a you line. Now, you could also be a reader. The narrator can address you as who you are by breaking the fourth wall and saying, here we go. I could bore you with the details of the murder, poison in the champagne, butlers where they shouldn't be past midnight, but you, dear reader, are most likely more interested in the meat on the skeleton. I'm talking, of course, about the grand inheritance. So, which one of these is most second person? If you've got to write a story that's a point of view from a second person, this is probably the strongest second person. This is a much more subtle second person POV, and this is just a bit of cheek that the author throws in for the reader to kind of enjoy. Did that help? For anyone just joining in, this is just in response to Anna from Mars asking, how do you write in the second person? So I thought I might just do some writing here and now at the end of the stream. I gave 3 examples of what I consider to be different uses of the second person. In a traditional sense, in a way that interacts with first person point of view and makes it a much more emotional experience, and for a bit of fourth wall breaking cheek. So yeah, hope that was helpful. I enjoyed doing that. It was a lot of fun to do like a stream of conscience set of stories. Yeah. Alrighty, well, if you don't mind, I might wrap up the stream unless there's anything else. No. Get to bed. But thanks for everyone for sticking around and for seeing us off at the end of Nick's story. That was the end, by the way. So go and say hello to Mr. Nick and give some love to his subreddit. He has lots of cool stories there. I should try and read a few more too. Oops. Did that come through? There we go. It should come through here in a sec. But yeah. So it's been really cool to work on Nick's stories for the past couple of streams. I'm gonna have to think about what to do next Wednesday. I'll have to try and find someone else's stories to work through. On that note, if you've got a story that you'd like me to edit, please send it through. My email is on the Lyrebird Edits dashboard. If you just go to Twitch TV Lyrebird_edits, my email address will be there. Send it through, and I will edit your story live over stream. So thanks again to Nick. It's been great to have a 7-parter plus epilogue to do over the course of a couple of weeks. It was really fun to do. So yeah. Wonder what's up with my chat. There we go. But yeah, I see that the link went through, so if you guys want to go and say hi to Nick. Enjoy. TTLT says, huh? Oh yeah, like if I press refresh on the... Actually, that's a good point. Why did it do that? Ah, it didn't put, there you go. Hello? I can see you guys. I think I'm streaming okay. Oh, there you go. It's coming up. The last message I got from you guys was... Huh. Isn't it funny? I can't see any new content that comes up here, or even in my chat box here. Oh, I'm sorry if you guys have been talking to me, and I just haven't been getting through the messages. This is what I can see, and it should be a reflection of anything else that goes on my other chat box. Let me pop off YouTube. Because that might be causing some problems. So to anyone who's watching me on YouTube, I'll say goodnight, but I'll stick on stream for Twitch, so YouTube's off now. Or at least, maybe not. Okay, it looks good. That should be up and running again. So if you guys want to dump in any last minute comments before I go, isn't that funny? Just the chat box has been a bit strange tonight. It's been throwing up all of these weird sort of repeated messages from my YouTube comment box. So if you said something tonight and I've completely ignored it, this would probably explain why. So my apologies. It's not because I'm ignoring you. I always like to go through and make sure I read everything in my chat box. It just might be because I haven't seen it. There you go. Hello. DTLACC. But yes, thank you, Pandas from Mars, for that question too, and I hope this answered your question. And that you got something good out of it. In relation to just talking about Howdy's second person point of view. Okay, just wait for another 30 seconds or so, see if any messages trickle in, otherwise I'll shut down the stream. And for anyone just coming in, wondering what I'm doing and what my channel's all about, I'm Lyrebird Edits, and I edit people's writing. I go through Reddit and ask people whether they would allow me to edit their stories over stream, and then I go and broadcast my editing. And then sometimes I just open up some questions within the chat box here if people have any. Like for example tonight, Pandas from Mars was saying that wanting to know how to use the second person point of view in their writing, so I just gave a little writing example tonight. So it's editing and a bit of writing sometimes, but yeah. So welcome and goodbye, because I'm gonna stop the stream now. So thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight. Thank you to DLACC as always for showing your lovely face in the chat box. Thanks Pandas from Mars for the follow too. And I got another follow from someone tonight. Alexis someone? Forgot the name. But yes. Now, remember, I won't be here Sunday. So I'll be here next Wednesday, okay? Good, next Wednesday. Alright, and also thanks Pandas from Mars for the question here. That was a lot of fun to do. I hope that was clear. Yeah, if you've got any other questions, just shoot me an email, or I can send this to you if you like. Yeah, my email's on my dashboard. So we will see you guys another time. We'll see you next week. Dashboard it. Oh, that's a good idea, yeah. Wait, you mean my email or? Actually, I'll dashboard the link to this. Yeah. Oh, Nate Women, of course. Sorry, I knew I was forgetting someone. Thank you for tuning back in. It was good to see you again. Wednesday thing. Yes, I will. On the Tuesday, I will. No, I'll do it now. I'll do it again on Saturday to make sure no one comes, and I'll do it on Tuesday to say that I'm coming back. Good. Yes, thanks for reminding me to do that. All right, catch you all later. Bye bye.